Okay, frustum is made from glass. The glass has density. Sorry, frustum is made by removing a small cone from a large cone as shown in the diagram. So it's made from glass. The glass has a density of 2.5 grams per centimeters cubed. Work out the mass of the frustum. Give your answer to an appropriate degree of accuracy. So I've got the big frustum, and the big cone, and if I take away the small cone, I'll have what's left. So let's work out the big cone first. Okay? That radius there is going to be half of that, so that radius is 6. So I've got, let me just zoom out a little bit. So I've got pi 6 squared times by the height, which is 15. And I've got 1/3 of that. 1/3 pi 6 squared 15. And so that gives me 1/3 of pi times by 36 times by 15. And that gives me pi times by, what does that come to? 12 times 15, 180 pi. Okay, so that's my big cone. My small cone is then going to be, right, let's have a look at it. It's that I now need to use my scale factors to work out my small cone. So the small cone height is 5. I know from scale factors they are similar cones. So if that's 1/3 of the overall height, this is going to be 1/3 of the radius. So my small cone radius is going to be 2. If my big cone radius was 6, my small cone radius will be 2, just because it's 1/3, the scale factor is 1/3. So I've got 1/3 pi 2 squared times by 5, which is 1/3 of, it's 1/3 of 20, isn't it? 1/3 times pi times by 20, which is 6 2/3 pi. So my total mass for this frustum is going to be the difference between those. So if I take 180 pi, so the frustum that's left is 180 pi minus 6 2/3 pi, which is 173 1/3 pi. Then the only bit that I've got left to do now is my mass is density times by volume. So we need to remember that mass equals density times by volume, which is therefore 173 1/3 pi times by 2.5, because that's my density. So 173.333, plenty of threes, times by pi times by 2.5, 1361.4. Okay, 1361.4 grams. Need to give this to an appropriate degree of accuracy, so probably 1360 grams, or you would probably be able to get away with 1400 grams as well as an appropriate degree of accuracy. Right, this question is all about setting the situation up. I've got diameter 24, height 24x, height 16x, and the curved surface area of the cone is 2160 pi. Now I know the curved surface area, I'm given it here, is pi RL. So I know pi RL is equal to 260 pi. Now I can remove pi from this straight away if I like, so I can get RL, because divide both sides by pi, is 2160. Now my radius here is 12x. So I've got 12xl is equal to 2,160. What I haven't got is I haven't got L at the moment, so that's what I'm going to need to find. So if I think about this as a right-angled triangle, yeah, and on this side here I've got my radius, right? This is this right-angled triangle here. And on this side I've got 12x, and on this side here I've got 16x, that's the height. Then I'll be able to work out this. 12x squared is 144x, 16x squared is 256x squared. So, but actually I should be able to spot this as a 3, 4, 5 triangle. So this, if I do 12x squared plus 20 plus 16x squared, it comes to 400x squared. When I take the square root of that, it comes to 20x. So L is 20x. So what I've got here, if this is 12xL, I've got 12 times by 12x times by 20x equals 2,160. Yeah. So I've got 240 x squared equals 2,160. So let's divide it by, so I've got 2,160 divided by 240. Oh, that's not right, is it? So 2,160 divided by 240. Yeah. So I've got 9, so if I divide by both sides by 240, I've got 9x squared. So I've got x squared is equal to 9, so x is equal to 3. Not quite done with the problem. X is equal to 3. I've got to find the value of V, so I've got to work out now the volume of that cone. So I'm going to substitute in 3 into my cone. So my cone here, I've got to work out the volume. So my volume of the cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. So that's 1/3 pi, right, radius squared. My radius squared here is 24, my radius is 12x, so my radius is 12 times 3, so my radius is 36, and I'm going to square that, and then my height is 16x, so my height is going to be 16 times by 3, which is 48, and this is what it's going to come out as. So I need to do 36 times by 36 squared times by 48 times by pi, and then divide it by 3. And I get 20736 pi. And so V is 20736. And that's it. Quite loads of steps there, so that's not at all straightforward. And I understand why that would take you a long time to do. Let's mark the last paper, please. The last question, please, guys. So I've got a prism here, and it's a cuboid, and so I've got x, so 3x times by 2x times by x gives me 6x cubed, and 6x cubed is less than 900. Divide both sides by 6, gives me x cubed is less than 150. If x cubed is less than 150, let's take the cube root and so x is, so let's do cube root 150, x is less than 5.31, etc. Guys, now, it says x is an integer, so I know it's an integer, so x must be 5 or less, as x is an integer. Therefore, x is less than or equal to 5, and that's the full solution.